Hello, welcome back to the Young Voter. Today we're going to discuss the political news of the week, as we always do on Friday. Now the big news this week is, of course, the tax cuts that were advanced by both the Senate and the House. We'll get to those in a moment. First, I want to talk about something small that many of you might not have heard, but it's not really that small. It could be potentially very significant. The health care law by a judge in Virginia, of course the law that was passed by President Obama and the Democrats in the spring, was deemed unconstitutional, at least one of the key provisions that everyone would buy health insurance. That provision was deemed unconstitutional by a federal judge in Virginia, and thus the government is going to appeal, and this is going to be a more drawn-out process, and it's going to keep going forward and forward, and many people expect it to go to the Supreme Court. Now, we really don't know exactly how further courts are going to react to this, because there are other lawsuits going through Florida and other places that are arguing the same thing, that the health care law is unconstitutional. But what is interesting in this case is the judge, because the ruling judge invested between $15,000 and $50,000 in a GOP consulting firm working against health care reform. Not only were they working against health care reform, but now they're working for repeal. And this judge invested $50,000 in it. So it seems sort of like a conflict of interest to me. Maybe to you it seems the same, no? I invested $50,000 in something that I want abolished, and then I'm in the position to say whether it should be abolished or not, and I ruled to abolish it. Well, that seems a little, he should have perhaps recused himself from this decision. At least that's my personal take on the matter, but please give me your thoughts. It's interesting to see. It seems at most that this ruling is jaded, okay? Not at most, at the very least that this ruling is jaded. So I don't know how he came to be able to preside over this particular case. Perhaps it was within his circuit or something, but again, this is very questionable. I don't think this particular ruling should give us any ideas as to what might be said by judges that are further up in the chain of appeal. An interesting further point that I want to make is the commentary that the Republicans put on this unconstitutional health care law, like the Obamacare, what they like to call it. Orrin Hatch, of course, the Republican senator from Utah, praised the judge for ruling it unconstitutional, and he praised it as a defense of, quote, liberty. So the repeal of the individual mandate is supporting liberty. Now, the liberty not to buy health insurance. And I'm not arguing whether you should have the individual mandate. The individual mandate was put in the health care reform so that the drug companies would be happy. So that, okay, now we have to insure everyone, but now we have so many more people also that are healthy and that are going to pay into it that we're making money. So, yeah, in order for us to allow you to pass this repeal, you have to include the mandate to buy health insurance, which is a key provision in this law. Now, I'm not saying whether Orrin Hatch is wrong in defense of liberty or not, but it's interesting because now that he's calling that provision, I guess slavery is the antithesis of, is the opposite of liberty. So he called this thing slavery, but at the same time, when there was the Clinton health care proposal back in the 90s, he supported the mandate to buy health insurance, which is a key Republican key Republican article during that healthcare fight, which eventually failed. But the Republicans really wanted to put that in to protect the drug companies, of course. So Orrin Hatch was against liberty before he was for it? Or for slavery before he was against it? Flip-flop much? I mean, it's nothing new. The Republicans flip-flop a lot. So it's not exactly an illumination that, oh, a Republican flip-flop. I mean, it's important that people know it, but I'm just calling you out, Orrin Hatch. You flip-flopped. Okay? You're a flip-flopper. Okay? So that's it. That's all I have to say to you, Orrin Hatch. You're a flip-flopper. End of discussion. All right, then I called you out on it, Orrin Hatch, so, everybody be aware, Orrin Hatch flip-flopped. Now, tax back to the big thing this week. Of course, the tax compromise by President Obama passed on Thursday, well, early Friday morning. Thursday around midnight. The House voted in favor of the tax cuts, 277 to 148, and previously in the week, the Senate voted in favor. The original cloture vote was 83 to 15, with 8 Democrats, 1 Independent, and 5 Republicans opposing the cloture vote, and then the tax cuts passed 81 to 19. 13 Democrats, 5 Republicans, 1 Independent opposing. Now, it's funny that tax cuts is the one thing both parties can agree on. Well, it doesn't really seem that way because Democrats initially were getting upset. Bernie Sanders last week led his filibuster 8 hours on the floor, tried to oppose it, and Bernie Sanders and a few other Democrats and other Republicans, some Republicans voted against this. But this is probably the most bipartisan bill of the last 2 years in this past Congress. So it's curious that it passed, especially since so many people have vilified it on the right and on the left. I mean, Tom Coburn, who was one of the Republicans who opposed this bill, said the unemployment benefits were not paid for, etc., etc. Bernie Sanders says, why are we giving tax cuts to the rich? Okay, so Tom Coburn didn't have a problem with tax cuts to the rich. Bernie Sanders did. Bernie Sanders didn't have a problem with unemployment. Tom Coburn did. So opposite sides of the aisle coalescing in disagreement to this bill, and then the same thing happening with the vast majority of Congress supporting this bill. Now, there were a lot of Republicans that voted against it. Tom Coburn is just one example. In the House, Michelle Bachmann voted against this bill. Paul Ryan, etc. I think Paul Ryan or Mike Pence, one of the two or both, voted against it. So a lot of Republicans voted against it, but a lot of people voted for it as well. So, it was a bipartisan compromise. To just sum it up, it extends all of the Bush tax cuts for 2 more years, giving us the same debate in 2 years, though Obama says that he wants to overhaul the tax system starting next year in tandem with his whole budget slashing proposals, etc. So at that point, we'll be able to see if he's in earnest and what will happen, so maybe we won't be dealing with this problem in 2 years. But, again, that happened. They were extended for 2 years, unemployment benefits for 13 months, the estate tax was messed with, etc. So, people are divided. It seems that a lot of people support this bill now. A lot of people originally didn't want to give tax to the rich, but now they support this compromise. It's a messy position, and it seems that Obama is going to gain a lot of leverage with this because he compromised. He showed that he could compromise, and perhaps he's pulling a Bill Clinton, and now he's working again with the Republicans who are going to be in the House, and he's going to try to work with them to get something done. So we'll see. Who knows? Perhaps Obama will get some things done with the Republicans and then be in a better position for re-election. Triangulation, they called it, under Bill Clinton. Really working around the Republicans with them, but at the same time against them, and using them during the election, to say, well, these guys are clowns, okay, you can't vote for them, vote for me. So perhaps this is how Obama gets back into the re-election game. That's what pundits and other commentators are suggesting. That seems pretty reasonable. Appealing more to the center, this tax cut is quote-unquote centrist. I mean, it certainly angers liberals, it angers staunch conservatives, so people in the center presumably support it. So perhaps this is a good way for Obama to try to cozy up to the electorate. Who knows? But again, it's interesting information. Let me know what you think. But it's just one step. I mean, Obama, if he's serious about bipartisanship, he can't just stop there. He has to continue. He has to go further. And he has to pass other bills with Republicans, perhaps tax cuts. Not tax cuts, the tax overhaul, budget, cutting the budget, slimming the budget, etc. But that's with the tax cut debate. Let me know what you think. Just a final note. The House passed standalone Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, 250 to 175, and the Senate is expected to vote on it tomorrow. Senator Joe Lieberman, the independent from Connecticut who caucuses the Democrats, said he is confident of the measure gaining 60 votes. Perhaps, he said, as many as 62, or even more than 62. So again, almost every Democrat is going to vote for it. Ron Wyden, who is going to be in prostate cancer treatment on Monday and surgery for that treatment, he's going to be able to vote over the weekend. 4 Republicans have signed on, of course, Olympia Snowe and Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski and Scott Brown. They're going to vote for it. There are only a couple of Democrats who people are not really sure what's going to happen. Kent Conrad, of North Dakota. Who knows what he's going to say? An aide said, or he said, you'll see what happens tomorrow. So maybe he'll vote for it. Maybe he will vote against it. Joe Manchin of West Virginia has been completely mum on this. He voted against cloture the last time around, etc. So this should be interesting. We'll be able to see tomorrow, hopefully. Maybe we'll be able to see tomorrow if Don't Ask, Don't Tell is repealed anytime soon. So that's the news for the week. We'll be back next week and we'll have some more news, hopefully some good news. And have a good week. Thank you again for watching The Young Voter.